One of the hardest things that all of us have had to see over the past 12 months are these awful stories about people who haven't been able to say goodbye to the person who they love. For whatever reason, hotel quarantine and hard lines, which are being taken by health officials, have been used as the justification to separate Australians from the people they love in their final days. Now, this has never made sense to me, but it particularly makes no sense when the person who's come in from overseas, who's in hotel quarantine, has been fully vaccinated. And the person who they would be seeing is in the final days of their life. It is heartless, it is unnecessary, but it is something that is happening too frequently. And the bravery that it takes for people to come forward and tell us about the horror that they have been through, well, is something that I'm very honoured to say that we're about to see from a lady called Maria O'Day. Now, Maria's dad, John, passed away last week. Maria should have been by his bedside or should have had the opportunity to say goodbye, but didn't because Queensland Health Authority said she couldn't leave hotel quarantine. She was then forced to see the final time of her father's life via a mobile phone. It's not good enough, it's not acceptable, and Maria joins us now. Maria, firstly, I'm so sorry about what's happened to your family, and I'm sorry about Dad, mate.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Now, tell us the story of when you started to ask to see Dad and what the officials said to you, despite the fact that you are fully vaccinated and it was very obvious that he was in the final days of his life.
I arrived over from London on the 14th, the Monday evening, and Dad's condition had changed in the few days before I came in as I was, in transit. So I applied for what they call an exemption as soon as I got here on the 15th, on the Tuesday, and was asked for extra information, which I gave them, which wasn't just about me being vaccinated and having negative tests. It was also that the care home had taken extraordinary measures to make a visit COVID safe. They'd put that in writing as requested, and we'd sent that through. And, what I got was, it was all through a portal. It's a reply, very clinical, that just says, we've determined at the current time, it's for public health's sake, you can't go and see him. We're very sorry. I had one call from them later that day just to say, look, they're checking in on your mental health. And I said, well, how do you think I feel? I can't see my dad before he dies. He can't see me. Other than that, I have to say one of the things that upsets me the most is perhaps if I'd have seen what the Killians were doing earlier, the couple who did get to see their dad, maybe I would have known to fight harder or to go to the news earlier. But I keep saying we're just normal people. We accepted the rules and we tried to live with it by thinking they're saying no to everybody and that our suffering is part of what they consider to be, keeping the public safe. And the trauma of it for us was, a lot of people don't get to see their relatives before they die or make it from overseas for lots of reasons. But when you're an hour away and the government could have made it happen, and on the morning that I'm sitting there on Skype watching him dying in that room, all over the news is a fantastic story about, and please understand, I am so happy for those people that they are getting to see their father. But all over the news, the happy news that somebody else had been allowed in very similar situation, even brought up from Sydney, to see their father, not just once, but every day. And we just felt shocked and confused and angry. And at the same time, we were emotional and we're watching Dad, and it was just horrific. And then I called down to the hotel nurse to say, I don't understand what's happening. I was told no just like 4 or 5 days ago. And she tried her best to get in touch with people and get them to call. And by the time the department rang me to say, look, would you still like us to consider facilitating a visit? I'm like, well, what do you think? It's too late. He's dying now. And I said, if you can get me there, could it happen today? And it's like, well, it'd have to be approved. We need more permissions. Of course, it takes longer to organise these things. And I just, who wants to be put in that position to decide, do I, spend the last hours of my father's life on Skype, on a computer, trying to put through applications and worrying my mother even more. And then my cousins was with my mum, and she's a nurse, and she said, look, Madeline and Maria, he's only got probably an hour or so. So we pushed all of it to the side to just focus on him. But, that was the hardest thing to take, was that, Palaszczuk said that she would do everything she could to facilitate the reunion for them with their father. And for us, and for many, many others who've been in contact with me, they all got, public health, so sorry. COVID's not bigger than us, is it? It shouldn't be bigger than us and bigger than being compassionate human beings. Sorry, I get so angry. And even hearing
No, Maria, please, you're allowed to say whatever's going on, because it's awful. You got screwed over. Your father was denied that opportunity to have you there. Your mum for the support. We fully support it, and it is a ridiculous, the stuff I want to say on the telly, right? You can imagine all the dirty words, right? Which is that the system failed you. It failed your family. It's not acceptable. And they were trying to say, because this one case had lots of noise, other family, great, we'll take care of them, and everyone thinks the problem's solved. But people like yourself are suffering in silence all over the country, all the time, with all of these different rules. So, Maria, I just want to ask, and I hope you don't mind me asking, tell me about Dad. Tell me about the type of bloke that was your dad, that is your dad, and the type of life that he led.
Well, he lived in or near Gatton all his life, and as many people would say, including himself, he was quite a simple man, but he was really bright, had a really quick wit, and like a joke for every occasion. And he loved his family more than anything. He had greyhounds as a hobby, as many people do, and he just loved his family and was so proud of them. And he was always, they talk about the little Aussie battler, like no matter what life threw at him, he kept trying. And I think, he also believed in, and these are things that I think that, Australians are all about. They're strong, they're usually fearless, they believe in fairness and equality. That's something that he believed in. And that's why I think he when I asked Mum, should we speak out, she said, well, Dad would want that, because he'd want other people to know what we went through and what others will go through. And that they've introduced something now in Queensland to try and facilitate people seeing their relatives when they're dying. But, you just have to hope that they apply it fairly.
Well, this is the thing, Maria, we've heard this before. We've heard this before about, late last year about, we're going to change the system to make it easier. We'll hire more people. You would have heard all of that when you were in London and knowing what was going on here. Maria, can you do me two big things? One, understand that everyone watching right now is angry on your behalf and will fire up on your behalf. The second thing is, we obviously want to give you a cuddle, but can you give Mum a cuddle too, okay? Because I know it's the worst possible time. It's only ever going to get harder. But strength and love to you and Mum, okay?
Thank you so much. And can I just say that for a final thing, that just hearing that what was being spoken about earlier made me so angry, because it seems to me the only thing that we're proving to the rest of the world is that we're not moving on. Lock it down, lock them up. That's what made it happen. Our tragedy happen and other people, and they're not moving forward with different strategies. And my message to everyone, if they want this to stop, push the government to get those vaccines and make these lockdowns and these tragedies stop happening, because you can't keep going like this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good on you, Maria. Strength and love, darling. I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
Pleasure.